Hey guys, welcome back. So I'm kind of in between the state right now, between post-graduation and starting a new job in a month. So I've been taking the time to just kind of relax, get my life ready for post-grad, and getting all the adulting stuff like a budget, figuring out my loans, and all that out of the way. So that's what I've been up to. Since I graduated, a lot of you guys had graphic design questions for me and just like art major questions in general, which I was really happy to answer. You guys submitted a lot of good questions, but I narrowed some of them down and combined a lot of them because they were kind of similar, just worded differently. So hopefully I can answer most of your questions. This might end up being a long video. So a little background about me before we start. In high school, I went to a technical high school where I pursued nursing. I became a nursing assistant and geriatric nursing assistant out of high school, and it was expected of me to go on to get a biology degree and eventually becoming a doctor. But instead of taking that route, I decided I wanted to finally pursue the arts, and I went off to college and studied that for 4 years, and that's what I got my degree in. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Art and Visual Technology with a concentration in graphic design. So now that you guys know a little bit of my background, it can give some context into some of these questions, but I have them pulled up over here, and yeah, let's just get into it. First question, how did you know the medical field wasn't for you, / how did you know design was for you? I was kind of on my own applying for colleges. My parents didn't really have experience or could help me apply to colleges around, so it was like kind of a free-for-all for me. And I waited till the last minute to apply to everything because I just wasn't sure what I wanted to apply to. College seems like that finalizing step where I can finally make my own decision, and this college education is what I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life. So it was kind of like, what decision are you gonna make now for yourself to set yourself up for success? So I applied for one college for biology and one college for design, and I got into both, but I ended up choosing the one for graphic design. And that's how my whole college journey started. There's a clear difference when you're doing something just to complete it, which I can. I completed my nursing degree, and I could have went on and just checked off all the required education, went through all the programs for that. But I knew there was a difference between just getting it done to get it done and then doing something you're passionate about. I didn't know it was graphic design when I started that I wanted to do, but I knew I had a passion for art and creating, and I wanted to explore that in college. If you're interested in fashion, why did you choose graphic design instead of fashion design? That's really interesting because you can still see on my Instagram, it's really heavily fashion based. And I did go into graphic design thinking I could use that skill to develop clothes. I think for the first year or two, I did develop a t-shirt line. And I had some other ideas for that. But I kind of got frustrated with fashion sophomore year because I was I don't know what to do with this. I was really trying to push it because I thought I wanted to do fashion design. But I was nowhere near there, and now I know the difference between me loving fashion as a way to express myself versus producing it for others and kind of in that way. I don't know if that makes sense, but so fashion is something that's personal to me that I enjoy doing, and I enjoy using as a medium, doing shoots, styling shoots, and directing fashion editorials. That's something I love, but it's not something that I want to create. I'll leave that up to other people that are super talented in it. So how is the graphic design program at your college? I'm not going to mention the exact college I went to. I know some of you know. It's easy to find out where I went, but I just don't want to put any specific names out there. And my college experience is very personal and specific to me, so I can't say about a bunch of different programs or how other students liked it. Again, I only applied to one school for graphic design, and I didn't even go there to visit or anything. A friend was gonna go there, but he ended up going somewhere else, and I didn't even know what graphic design entailed when I applied. I just saw the course list and thought it was really interesting. Oh, I get to take drawing and illustration as my fundamentals and learn photography along the way. So I was oh, this concentration is really interesting. But now that I graduated, I can say the graphic design course that I went to is really more technically focused versus some schools that might be more like art focused schools. And there's not like one better than the other. I love art, but at my school they really separated art and design in the sense that like graphic design is for a customer, a client, and you're fitting these specs, versus art that's for like yourself, that's personal, you can create anything. That's kind of what they taught us. So everyone gets the same prompts for projects or takes the same courses, but how you approach the project and your like way of thinking and relationship to design is how you kind of morph your graphic design experience. But I don't put a lot of pressure on going to like the best college or anything. Did you have a portfolio to apply to a graphic design program? I had nothing at all, because I came from a nursing background, so I didn't exercise my like art or like illustration or anything beforehand, and I had no idea of like any graphic design programs besides like Photoshop. So a lot of students come in, if they do have a portfolio, with a lot of traditional art like painting, illustration, drawing. But the one I went to did require a portfolio review, but you didn't have to do it until about like the second semester, which is what I did because I didn't have anything. And actually my portfolio review, once I did it, was all my drawing works from the first semester, and I was able to get into the Bachelor of Fine Arts program with that, but it didn't really have any design pieces. So don't stress out too much about that, but it depends where you apply. And then leading into that, if you do have a portfolio, tips for curating a strong portfolio. I'm gonna take that as if you already have some pieces. So I wouldn't put all your works in it. Of course, include your strongest pieces. It can be like 5 to 10 like strong pieces, definitely quality over quantity for me. If you have a chance, explain the why behind each project. It really shows your expertise when you're able to say, I made this design decision based off of this information and I visually conveyed it this way. Tips for freshmen / someone starting in graphic design. I literally didn't know the software going into it. I, again, only knew Photoshop from like maybe using it on MySpace or something. The best way to learn the programs are to use them. So I know with projects you're assigned, dabble in them. I think most of us learned through video tutorials online. That helped a lot, and that's gonna help you like through your design career. Doesn't matter where you are in your career. Other tips, I don't know, like don't give yourself too much pressure when you're a freshman. Honestly, like that's my best tip. Like you're gonna learn everything along the way, so don't give yourself too much pressure already starting off. You're gonna learn your process, you're gonna learn your style. Use this time to experiment. Just don't stress out too much, honestly. That's the best tip. How do you stay motivated within your degree? How do I stay motivated? I didn't really have problems staying motivated because I'm very like, I have to get this done. So I guess I was motivated by stress in a good way. Like I'm a very deadline oriented person, so I definitely was motivated in that way. But I could say I stayed motivated by just making it exciting for myself. I know when I was a freshman, I really was into fashion more. So a lot of the projects, you just get a prompt, but you can kind of personalize it to yourself. So if I was interested in fashion at the time, I took that prompt and made it about fashion. So take that project and make it into something personal and interesting for you. How do you deal with creative block / being uninspired? This happens a lot, especially when you're doing projects back to back and maybe there's like 4 different classes with different projects at a time. It's like you're cranking out these ideas. I'll like continue, if I can show you my sketchbook, I usually like write down words and write down all the specs, see if it leads to more ideas. I like to like lay everything out, and then like sometimes an idea will spawn from a certain word or something like that. I kind of have to organize my thoughts and then go into it. And if I just can't think of anything, I honestly give it a break, or I'll sleep on it. That actually helps a lot. That's a really good tip. It's just to sleep, honestly. And I know it's hard when you first start, but sleeping helps a lot with your creativity, because when you're tired, you're not going to come up with anything. So I'll just go to sleep, wake up, it'll be like something like just my brain cleansed and I'm able to like just spin idea and I'm like, oh my god, like that was it. But if you're looking for inspiration, designers use Pinterest all the time. We look at other designers' work, research like your project, and I just Google a lot. Like my Google searches are weird as fuck. As a designer, your Google searches are like so random. I don't even know. But remember, there's a difference between inspiration and copying, especially on Pinterest. This is a really good question. How do you deal with the fear of looking at others' work and feeling like a worse artist? This is such a good question because every fucking body deals with this. It doesn't matter what profession you're in. And this is definitely something that I was not prepared for going into graphic design. And just me personally, not even with design, I was not a confident person. I had a lot of like just confidence issues. So in these classes, your work is being put up and they're being critiqued throughout the process with your other peers and with your teachers. So imagine you're young, not confident about yourself, and then your work is being talked about. This is a really daunting experience, but trust me, this is going to become one of your most favorite experiences when it's done right. Because number one thing, separate yourself as soon as you can from your work and who you are. This might be getting confused because you think of art and you think that art is an expression of the artist. But in graphic design, you are given these specs and these certain limitations that aren't completely you. You're just fulfilling kind of a request some of the time. So when someone's talking about your work, they're not talking about you. They're not saying you're a bad designer or something. They're talking about this is working because why? And that's like a constructive criticism. They're going to tell you this is working because why? Or this is not working and this is how to make it better, or why it's not working. And that's going to become one of your favorite things because it's essential to design. When you're designing for an audience. So when you're in there working by yourself, you don't see the bigger picture. And when you put it up there, you might be like, I know something's not right with this design. Then someone can be like, bam, 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 this is why. And then you can use that immediate advice to make your design better. You don't have to slave over it for hours thinking, why isn't this working? And I know when I was a freshman, I was looking at my work like, as soon as it went on the wall, I was like, oh, that person's better than mine. Oh, that person's better than mine. Just know everyone's in the same position as you. We're all learning, developing our own styles. And this is how you learn your strengths and weaknesses. And it's going to become one of the most helpful processes as soon as you like rewire your mind to think that this is a helpful experience. Did you have a side job during college / did you do an internship? I had side jobs during college because, again, I'm a workaholic. But during, I think, my freshman and sophomore year summer, I just went into waitressing. I was just waitressing. And I think my sophomore year, I like picked up a retail job at Forever 21. But that didn't last long because retail was not for me. I'd rather waitress than do retail anytime. I know internships are always recommended. I didn't take it because I just wasn't focused on that. I had a lot of side projects I was working on, like Nap as a magazine, and doing like shoots that I wanted to use my summer free time to do. It definitely looks good on a resume if you have some design experience, just so they know you know what it's like to work in a professional setting and you know what it's like to work with others. But I don't think it's a make or break on a job if you don't have an internship, because your portfolio honestly will speak for itself. If you have great work, like amazing work, but might not have internship experience, I think you're still good versus having okay work, but I mean you worked before, but that doesn't really say, but they're hiring you as a designer, not based on how much experience really that you have. And again, your portfolio will like speak about it more. How do you handle 3-hour studio classes? This is something that surprised me too. Honestly, I was not prepared for college. They don't feel long anymore at all. When the teacher's lecturing, it will feel long, but most of the 3-hour studio classes, you might be presented projects and you get time in class to work on it, or that 3 hours is spent helping each other critique each other's work. So you're actively working. You're not like sitting there like in math class and it's 3 hours just the teacher talking to you. The 3 hours are really used very interactively, and you get work time in class. You do get hungry. I think that was the only problem, is us trying to fit in a meal in between the classes, and Some of the classes didn't allow food because like you have all this technology around you. They don't want to get any of it ruined. But how do you start your design process? Your design process is something that you develop in college as you approach each project, and the better that you know it, the quicker things will get done, because you know, like, this works for me best, so let me just go through these steps and get my ideas out. My current design process is I like to research a lot. That way I know the task and I'm not just assuming things. And sometimes when you research, it stems new ideas. It also helps a lot if you're talking to a client, because they'll give you a lot of inspiration by, if you read in between the lines of them saying what they want and kind of translating it into design. I will look up like visual examples, especially during college when I was still developing my style and working on a lot of new formats I never had before. I did use Pinterest a lot. Instead of like opening your program and having this blank sheet, you are able to see what other people are doing with that format and seeing the like highest possibilities, and then going in and starting your design process. And then from there, after I get my inspiration, just a bunch of sketching. Sometimes it'll be like 10 sketches, sometimes it'll be 100. What was the most challenging aspect of an art major and university life in general? I could say most challenging aspect of being an art major. I think I already talked about the critiques, which was hard to start with. I think another challenging aspect is just people knowing the expanse of graphic design and understanding how much we actually do. A lot of times the term art major is really swept under and just like, oh, you're just an art major. And it was really hard to explain to people. I didn't even start saying I was an art major until like my junior year. But they don't know how expansive graphic design is. I didn't learn it until later. Like, it's everything we do, all the websites you go on, all the apps you're on, every package you buy, and down to every single thing that you have, everything that's visual, that you see day to day is graphic design, and there was someone behind that designing it. That's the jobs we're preparing for. We're literally supplying visual communication to the world, and a lot of people brush it under. Like, everything on this table right now is design. Glossier packaging design is literally what changed them from any other brand, and like changed like the minimal kind of beauty look. And a lot of people just don't understand or like dismiss it and think it's just like flyers, making posters, making brochures for people. So definitely the respect that an art major and graphic designer deserves is necessary, because even within the school, your biology and engineering is going to get more funding than the arts. And then I guess university life in general, just being a college student, and I was the only one out of like my friend group to go off out of state to a different college. So I started college alone. It literally wasn't until like a year or so ago that I found my like lifetime group of friends from college. So I guess the social aspect of college is always there, and it'll always be hard. And that's because you change throughout college, and who you are and what you value will change. So when you're with people and those values don't like match up, then your friend group will change. So the next question is about like freelance kind of in general. Tips on starting freelance work and your opinion on being a freelancer versus working for someone else. The good thing about being a graphic designer is you can do both. You can freelance on the side. A lot of designers do. Doesn't matter what level you are at. They will freelance for themselves at home and then work for someone else, like an agency or in-house at a company, as their like day job 9 to 5. So good thing is you can do both, and you'll have two sources of income. And so tips for starting freelance work is just to make sure you're prepared. I do want to start and get into some freelance work, so making sure everything is laid out and that you don't get screwed over because you are working for yourself. So make sure you have a contract ready, and there's just Google contracts and there's sources out there. I kind of Googled a bunch and customized mine along with using the GA standard of like terms and services. I created an invoice. I determine my current rates, and your rates will change. And that's one thing that's really hard to determine, is how much you want to charge people. There's not an exact formula, because a lot of people say think about your cost of living, but now it's kind of a gut instinct, is how much you want to get paid. Is it worth it for all the hours you're putting in, like that final price? I do recommend, definitely do not charge hourly. You can base off your rate hourly and kind of like gauge how much you should be paying, but then when you're presenting it to the client, give them a flat rate so they're not surprised at the end if something's higher or lower. And so you're charging by the value of the project to them, and it'll change from client to client. If it's a bigger company, that project's to me of more value and they'll have a bigger budget, so charge them more, versus a personal project for someone. So a lot of people ask, what do I do for work now? Again, I don't want to name anything specific, but I am starting at a agency next month in June, first week of June, which I'm really excited about because I really like their designs. And because I'm in DC, we're near DC, a lot of the design work is either like government work or like very corporate work, which isn't exciting to me. So this was one of the few agencies I found that did more exciting work, but they do a lot of hospitality work, which I find pretty interesting in the aspect of like creating that experience for the customer, with like hotels or restaurants and stuff. There are a lot of design agencies in big cities like LA, San Francisco, New York, but I don't know where I want to be now. Right now, I want to be in DC. Yeah, so I'm happy here. So following up with that, a lot of people are asking, what jobs can you get after graduating in graphic design / like, is it stable? How's the pay? Yeah, of course. Again, like I said, everything around is designed. After you graduate, you can decide if you want to freelance and do your own thing. Like, you can self-employ yourself already out of college, even before you start college. Or you can go into an agency where you'll work on different projects that the agency picks up. Or you can do in-house, where you go in a company and you're designing in a within a company. And I did that for a little while too, one summer. I did decide to go and do agency work because I wanted, again, to keep learning. I wanted the critique from a larger group of people, more experience. I just felt like I could learn more at an agency. And the pay is good. I think it's above average, honestly. I feel like, I don't know, you don't really worry about the pay once you're doing something you enjoy. The money will come, especially if you're passionate about it. You'll find ways of income and it'll be fun doing it. So pay isn't really anything you have to worry about. Is this our last question? Nope, not yet. I just went to a different page. Okay. Is it possible to learn graphic design without going to university? And that's a really good question, because a lot of people are debating, do I go to college and spend all this money on loans and stuff, or can I just learn it myself? And I kind of started telling myself, the college path was right for me because I didn't know anything starting off, and I wouldn't have been motivated to learn as much as I did and push myself with projects if I was just learning on my own. You can learn all this stuff, like a lot of this stuff, online. And if you are self-motivated or there's something very specific you want to learn, you don't need college to start that. College just provides you that easy like environment and course, an organized course to teach you graphic design. And the other thing that's very valuable that you won't get if you're learning about by yourself is the critique from others, so you're able to grow. So I think if you want a full-fledged graphic design experience, college is definitely great. But if you have like something very specific you want to do, like maybe you want to make magazines and you only want to do editorial design, it could be something that you pick up on your own without college. What areas of design, career-wise, interest you the most? This is another thing I learned a little later, is there are so many things you can go into with graphic design based on what you're interested in. You can go into branding, marketing and advertising. You can go into like UX, UI design. I guess that includes web design and stuff. Or you can be a stronger illustrator, digital illustrator, and do that. There's so many things you can do. But for me, I found my strength and interest in branding and marketing. It's just like so fun to me, like being able to create this image for a company. And And that's why I love this one quote. It's like, graphic design is finding an interesting story and telling it well. And that's become the basis of my design. It's finding that interesting story of a new company or existing company and be able to visually communicate that and share that with the world, whatever the audience is. It's really interesting. Like, that's just that more interpersonal connection through design, being able to learn about someone, being able to learn about the most interesting or positive aspect of something or someone and sharing that with people. What are your ultimate dreams and goals as a graphic designer? I've always kind of had the same goal, and I kind of developed it when I was starting as a freshman, but I've been afraid to say it until now. Now I say it proudly. But my ultimate goal is to have my own creative agency and employ all these talents. And I know that's going to happen, so that's just one goal, and then beyond that, I'll see what I want to get into. Yeah, just being able to have an agency, work with all these different talented people to help all these great companies or brands coming out. What's the most important life lesson you learned from getting a graphic design degree? Life lesson. I think one of the things is that through graphic design, it taught me a lot of confidence. I wasn't a confident person because I was basing off all of my like worth off like me being on Instagram, physically presenting myself in a way, but being able to do graphic design. I'm such a crybaby. Whoo, let me calm down. Be able to have the skill that I developed and I can provide to the world, and developing my confidence in that sense that I'm a good designer, really transferred my confidence from just basing off of physical appearance to like a skill set. And graphic design taught me I can be all these things. I can be a creative director, I can be an illustrator, I can be a photographer and do design, graphic design. I'm good because I have these skills and I'm strong at them and I keep working at them. When I'm going into graphic design, I can walk in like a boss and be like, this is my design, and explain myself and explain it well and why I did all those things. And that's just a big source of confidence for me. We got through a lot of questions, and thank you guys for submitting all of these. This is probably one of my favorite videos that I've made because it's actually, I hope it's like helping some of you guys. And for those of you that have told me like you're switching because you've heard my story, or like hearing my story kept you going on your path, it's really rewarding because I was at that exact same place when I started out and I didn't know where to look, and being able to see maybe someone else that's doing the same thing and it's worked out. I'm happy I can be even an example of that. I'm lucky I can. And like I said, design is a privilege for me. Being able to pursue the arts is a privilege for me. Not many people can even think about creating because there's so many other problems in the world. But being able to create is definitely a privilege that me and a lot of you have that others might not. But I really enjoy videos like this where I can actually give you advice that will help, because that's what I want my influence to be. And I think that's why my videos are kind of in and out, because I just don't have a lot to say. I don't want to just put out videos where I'm doing my makeup or something, because that's not fully me. There's so many people that are talented at it that I'd rather represent us and do that. But for me, it'd be great to use this platform more. Now that I'm post-grad, I have a little bit more time to give advice. I think using this platform to be more of a self-improvement platform, more than anything. Self-improvement like health-wise, mentally, physically, as I'm going on my health journey. And hopefully if I can share it, you guys will get inspired and pursue yours or continue on yours. So if you guys have any other video requests, let me know. I might do something fitness related soon. If you guys have any more questions about graphic design, if you guys want to see my portfolio, I'd be open to share it with you guys too. Just let me know what you guys want to see next, because yeah, this channel is going to be for however I can use it to help you. But I hope you guys are pursuing what you love, what really sparks your fire, what's most true to you. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye.